Welcome into the Inside Scoop. We are live from Nashville, Tennessee, and today is Wednesday, November 26th. I am your host, Josh Newberg, and it is Thanksgiving Day Eve. It is rivalry week for those who celebrate. Big visits are here, big commitments on the way because we're just 1 week from signing day. So we got a big show. We got lots to cover, and it's going to be great because, like I said, 1 week from early signing day, but we are only 24 hours from Thanksgiving, so let's get down to business. I want to know what your favorite side is. This isn't meant to be controversial. I think the Thanksgiving Day sides are one of the best plates on the table, whether it be mashed potatoes, mac and cheese. I love cranberry sauce, stuffing, casseroles, any kind of casserole, I'm in. What is your five-star side for Thanksgiving? I want to know. Put it in the comment section below. Also, as we hit the holiday season, do me a favor and hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on YouTube. You know we're the best because we just did 100K in 2 years of this channel being on. Thank you guys, and if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. All right, today's Inside Scoop. We have a lot to cover. We got some flips on the horizon, so we're going to talk Texas, USC, Oklahoma, and Michigan. Big show. Let's get to it. The game this weekend in Ann Arbor, Michigan, Ohio State. EJ, we've been talking all really since the summer about this big visit weekend. So we got 5 stars on campus. We got flip targets on campus. Let's start with some flips. I want to go Havon Finney. Committed to LSU. Obviously, LSU has no coach. Michigan's been making him a priority. Where do we stand heading into this visit?
Yeah, so he hasn't fully confirmed the visit yet, but there's definitely optimism that he will make it to Ann Arbor. You know, Finney's been committed to LSU for a while, but the one school that has always been a threat to flip him is Michigan. The Wolverines got him on campus in the spring. They've continued to recruit him throughout the fall. When Michigan played out in Los Angeles against USC, they stopped by, they visited Finney. So they've been very aggressive. Obviously, LSU is in the market for a new coach, a new head coach, which should help Michigan here down the stretch. I mean, the early signing period is next week, so there still isn't clarity in Baton Rouge, and that means the door is wide open for Michigan to make a move. And if they do get him to campus, I think things will get very, very interesting there. And Finney's really emerged as Michigan's top corner target. We talked about it, I think, earlier this month or last month, Josh, where I told you if there's one position Michigan will spend on when it comes to NIL here close to signing day, it will be corner. Now, they got Baylor commit Jamarion Vincent on campus earlier this fall, but it's looking more and more likely like he'll stick with Baylor, and that means it's all in on Finney. They have to get him on campus this weekend and complete that flip. Corner is the big missing piece to the puzzle.
All right, so there's going to be other flips on campus. So what other targets should Michigan fans keep an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, the one flip that is fully confirmed is Adrian Hamilton, 3-star offensive lineman, currently committed to Virginia Tech. Obviously, Virginia Tech made a splash hire. They went out and brought in James Franklin, but there isn't really a pre-existing relationship there, so I don't think the Franklin hire really factors too much when it comes specifically to the recruitment of Adrian Hamilton. Michigan has done a great job of recruiting him over the last 2 months. They've quickly built a relationship there. He's also a high school teammate of Tariq Boney, who is an edge prospect out of St. John's, committed to Michigan. So having that teammate bond will certainly help with Michigan's chances. I think Michigan gets this one done. They've really been down to 2 offensive line recruits, and that's Hamilton and Sean Stover, who visited earlier this fall and is committed to Duke. It's looking more and more likely like Stover will stick with Duke, which means Hamilton is the guy. Don't be surprised if I put in a flip prediction for Hamilton coming out of his weekend visit.
All right. Yeah, it sounds like it's been trending in that direction, and if there's ever a weekend for it, this would be it right before signing day. Let's talk about some 5 stars on campus, and we'll take this to the 2027 class where Michigan is knee deep in recruiting for next year's class, and really so is much of America. But number one running back, Kamon Spell, is going to be on campus, and we know Savion Hyder is in the 2026 class. So why not go out and try to land the number one running back in 2027? Where do you think things stand between Michigan and Spell heading into this trip?
And Michigan obviously has some work to do. Obviously, our national analyst, the GOAT, Steve Wilfong, he put in a pick for Georgia, but still a long way to go with
Mm-hmm.
Spell. Even if Georgia is trending right now, next signing day is still a full year away, obviously. The one thing here to note is I'm not sure if Michigan will be as aggressive with NIL at running back, considering that they just went all in on Savion
Yeah.
Hyder this cycle. But Michigan does have a track record of spending at the running back position. They obviously invested a lot of NIL in Hyder, but they also did so in the portal getting Justice Haynes. So maybe they do with Spell. I think that one is going to be one to watch as we progress over the next year. Does Michigan actually invest in Spell a year after landing Hyder? But I think Michigan is giving itself the best opportunity if they decide to go that route. Michigan running backs coach Tony Alford has done a fantastic job of recruiting Spell, and he's swinging for the fences for a reason. The other thing Michigan has a track record of is featuring two running backs. Even though Michigan brought in Bryce Underwood last cycle, this is still considered a run first program. They've featured two backs historically. When you look back at Blake Corum and Hassan Haskins, and even this cycle, or I'm sorry, this year with Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall, I think that could play into Michigan's favor. And the other thing to note is Savion Hyder will be on campus this weekend. That'll give Spell and Hyder an opportunity to get to know each other, and maybe Michigan can pitch them on just having the most elite backfield possible, keeping each other fresh. And again, just showing them what they've done with running backs in the past, guys that have made it to the NFL while being part of the same backfield simultaneously. Looking at, like I said, Blake Corum, Hassan Haskins, I think that should be a big selling point for Michigan. So, like I said, Michigan certainly has some work to do. Georgia trending in the right direction here, but this visit could certainly move the needle for Spell.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's talk about another five-star, one that I do think Michigan is going to make a major priority. Wide receiver Monshun Sales from the state of Indiana. He's been all over the place this season, but this weekend he's going to finish it at Michigan. Where do you think the Wolverines stand? Is Sales a high priority?
Absolutely. Look, Michigan needs help in the wide receiver room. There's no doubt about that. They invested so much in bringing in Underwood. They have to get weapons around him. You look at the wide receiver room this year, and they've struggled aside from Andrew Marsh, who is a true freshman. So they need more top talent in that wide receiver room. And Sales, Michigan's in it with multiple top 100 receivers. Dakota Warren, he'll be on campus. Matthew Gregory, Quinn Burrell. Michigan's in it with those guys. I think Sales is kind of in a tier of his own. I mean, he's the real five-star. He's the number 8 overall recruit in the country. I think Michigan will go above and beyond when it comes to NIL. Historically, Michigan has not spent at wide receiver, and that's probably why you're seeing some struggles at the position. I think Michigan changes course. They have to in the portal this winter and on the recruiting trail in 2027. Sales is going to be at the top of the board. He's a freak. He's a big-bodied wide receiver with verified track times. He's an absolute game changer. He can come in, be a day one impact player. I think that has to be really appealing to Sales, knowing that he can come in, link up with Bryce Underwood, be part of an offense that is evolving, and be a go-to playmaker from the moment he steps on campus. I'm not sure how many other schools can pitch him on, hey, it's a wide open wide receiver room here. You can come in, start, and be a go-to guy. He can certainly do that at the University of Michigan. So this will be his second time on campus this fall. Other schools like Alabama, Notre Dame, Oregon, they're all in the mix there. Ohio State, who obviously Michigan is playing, but I think Michigan is right up there and has a lot to sales, not only, again, with the evolving offense, but I do think they will change course and make him a top NIL priority as well.
All right. Now, who is it important to have on campus? I mean, I know we got Julian Walker, who's kind of looking around. One, is he going to be there? And two, is there anybody else Michigan fans maybe need to keep an eye on over the course of the next week until signing day?
Yeah, I mean, for 2026, Michigan's pretty much done. They have 2 spots remaining. Like I said, offensive line and corner. We talked about the 2 big priorities there, Adrian Hamilton and Haven Finney. I think as far as the commits, everybody has been pretty locked in. You have your 2 5-stars coming in, Savion Hyder and Carter Meadows, which is great. There was some Ohio State speculation earlier this year with Carter Meadows that never really turned into anything. He's been completely solid. This is his second visit of the fall. There has been absolutely nothing with Savion Hyder. This is his second visit. He's set to enroll early. Everything's all good there. The one to keep an eye on is obviously Julian Walker. Like you mentioned, he's still strongly considering South Carolina. His father is part of the strength and conditioning program at South Carolina. He's a South Carolina kid. His family is originally from the Midwest, but, again, they live in South Carolina right now with his dad being part of the staff. That's a big selling point for the Gamecocks. He's made multiple visits to South Carolina throughout the fall, including an official visit, which was really interesting. I am told that distance has been a bit of a concern, which is why it's super important for Michigan to hit a home run with his mother this weekend. Julian Walker, huge riser in the rankings too. I mean, he's a borderline 5-star at this point, would be an absolute dynamic duo there with Carter Meadows. But they have to knock it out of the park this weekend with his mom. They have to ease any distance concerns. And again, she's from the Midwest. I think, weather won't really be a factor there. It's all about, making her feel like part of the family. She actually didn't make it to Michigan this summer for his official visit. So, that's something to really monitor, a big storyline there. I also think it's key for Walker to get back around the staff, get back around Meadows and some of the other commits as well, because he hasn't been to campus this fall. I mean, he's made like 3-4 South Carolina games. He hasn't been to Michigan since he committed. So just getting him back on campus, making him feel like a priority. I think the X factor this weekend will be Michigan General Manager Sean McGee. Now, this isn't a super big NIL recruitment, but I think that plays a factor. And I think McGee has been key in, the revolution of Michigan's NIL, and he'll play a big role in, making sure everything is lined up like it's supposed to be on the business side. But it goes beyond that. Like I said, they absolutely have to win over mom. They have to make Julian feel like part of the family again. And, I think right now it's close, man. I don't really have a prediction one way or the other, whether he sticks or flips. But I will say Michigan's going to do everything it can this weekend, from business to the family aspect to the actual game, to make sure Walker stays in this class.
All right. Sounds like a lot on the line. A win could go a long way this weekend over Ohio State. So Michigan fans, well, first, EJ, what are your keys to the game? If Michigan's going to win this game, I want EJ Holland's key to the game.
If Michigan is going to beat Ohio State, they have to play mistake-free football. They've, really had some. You looked at the Northwestern game. They had some, really bad mistakes there. Ton of turnovers, some, bad penalties. So I think they have to play mistake-free football and, just do what they've done the last several years. Punch Ohio State right in the mouth, give them a David Benavidez left hook right to the mouth, and set up for victory there. So we'll see how it goes. Like you said, a win could go a long way with recruiting, considering how massive that visitors list is, which, of course, you can find over at thewolverine.com.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, no matter what, I mean, it's going to be an electric environment, but a win could really tip the scales for Michigan. So Michigan fans, talk to us. How do you guys feel? What are the keys to victory? And give us your score prediction in the comment section below. It is rivalry week in the state of Texas. We got Longhorns versus Aggies. We got flip rumors. We're going to cover it all. National analyst Sam Spiegelman's here. But before we get into it, Texas fans, do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the Rivals Recruits channel, the best recruiting channel on all of the YouTubes. All right. Let's bring in Sam Spiegelman, and we're going to talk about big visitors at this game on Friday. But first, LSU flip targets on campus. They were on campus last weekend, but you wrote a couple stories this week, and I want to talk about number one defensive lineman Richard Anderson and offensive tackle Bryson Martinez. Both of them committed to LSU. Both of them do not have a head coach right now, and both of them visited Texas last weekend. So what is the latest?
Yeah, it was a big deal to get the number one defensive lineman on campus. He was on campus. The top two defensive linemen in the country were both in Austin over the weekend. After the visit, there's a sense that Big Rich Anderson is likely to stick with LSU, but he is open to Texas. I think they did take a step forward. Of course, he is in wait-and-see mode to see who the Tigers tab as their next head coach and whether Frank Wilson is going to be a part of this staff. From what I'm hearing, that is the catalyst in this recruitment. Rich Anderson was the first commitment in LSU's 2026 class, and of course, is very close with Frank Wilson, who is from New Orleans, is close with Richard and his father. He is going to be the catalyst in whether Big Rich sticks. There's an expectation he will be in Baton Rouge on Wednesday and potentially taking an official visit to USC before he is expected to sign next week.
Yeah, sometimes the furniture comes with the house, and that's kind of the way it goes with LSU and Frank Wilson. So we'll see what happens there. But there was already a big flip this week. Texas, they flipped an offensive tackle from Stanford. Who is it, and what are they getting?
Yeah, they flipped Caden Schur, who at one point shut his recruitment down. Schools like Virginia and TCU were chipping away at Caden Schur, but the offer from Kyle Flood and the Longhorns, that moved the needle tremendously. This is, of course, he was committed to Stanford. He was hand-selected by Andrew Luck as one of the building blocks of that offensive line. I don't need to tell you, Josh, how much Andrew Luck appreciates a good offensive line. Caden Schur, I got to watch him last week in the playoffs. He's big, he's long, he's bouncy, he's athletic. I think he can play 3 or 4 different positions up front. I think he's someone who can develop and grow into a potential multi-year starter in Austin.
Yeah. All right, really big get there. So at this point, signing day is 1 week away. Who else are the Longhorns trending to flip?
Yeah, like you said, they flipped Caden Schur and they flipped his running back, Jet Walker, from Georgetown High School, about 30 minutes outside of Austin. And now their focus is on those LSU commits. We talked about Big Rich Anderson, but Texas has even more traction with his fellow in-state prospect, Bryson Martinez, who took an official visit to Texas last weekend, his second visit there in the month of November. I'm told he is torn between the Tigers and Texas. He is trying to wait and see who they tab as the head coach, but he is still likely to sign next week. So we'll see whether Texas can continue to ride this momentum with Bryson Martinez. And they're also gung-ho about trying to keep blue chip edge Jamarian Carlton inside the state. He's visited Texas twice unofficially in the last month. There's home games in Austin this Saturday. There's home games in Waco this Saturday. That might be the telling visit for Jamarian Carlton, who is going to sign on Wednesday.
Do you feel like which way do you think he's trending right now? I mean, do you feel like Baylor can hold on?
I'll say this, before he showed up in Austin, there was a sense from the people in Baylor that with Dave Aranda set to return next year, that all but locked up Jamarian Carlton's commitment. The fact that he showed up in Austin a few hours later tells me that he is still strongly considering the Longhorns and is a prospect we must be monitoring heading into National Signing Day.
Yeah. We will absolutely be watching him to see if he shows up in Austin on Friday. Speaking of showing up in Austin, who are we expecting on campus on Friday?
Yeah, Texas is going to have an official visitor from out of state. Our Steve Wilfong has reported that Torrey Davis, another talented safety, will be in town for this big rivalry game. He should see an electric atmosphere inside of DKR. Texas will also have a series of top underclassmen, guys like Caden McCarty, a Rivals 300 edge, who's going to make his decision a few days after National Signing Day, try to kick off that 2027 cycle. Texas is a finalist along with the Aggies and Houston. And then number 2, interior offensive lineman, Ismael Kamara. He's visited all over the country the last couple of weeks: Alabama, LSU, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, TCU, SMU. He'll be back on the 40 acres for this showdown between 2 of his leading contenders.
I am fired up for this weekend. Texas fans, talk with us. Who do you feel good about flipping? Could it be 3 for 3? Richard Anderson, Bryson Martinez, Jamarian Carlton. Who do you think the Longhorns flip? And also, give us your score predictions for Friday. Put it in the comment section below. Let's talk USC recruiting. We're going out west for rivalry weekend, and the Trojans, they have the number 1 class in America. They're a week away from finishing with the number 1 class in America, but there's a couple things we want to talk about. We're going to break it down with national analyst Adam Gorney. But before we do that, USC fans, do me a favor. We have had a great time talking USC this entire cycle. We're going to continue talking USC recruiting into the offseason, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the Rivals Recruits channel. All right, let's bring in Adam Gorney, and we're a week from signing day. So before we talk about this weekend's big game, is there any flip targets on USC's board that we are tracking a week from National Signing Day?
Yeah, on Friday, I was told that they were done, but we'll see. I mean, I think that's still an open question. Mm-hmm. And the opening is the receiving core of Chris Henry Jr. and Caden Dixon-Wyatt at Mater Dei. Now, I've been told that they're not recruiting Henry at all. We will see if they make a late run, if they can rustle up some NIL money. But Caden Dixon-Wyatt is the one that's interesting to us because on Friday night, he told us he's done. He's signing with Ohio State. I was told that, he's been told by USC that they don't have the money to match Ohio State's NIL offer. But if he wants to come, if he wants to stay home, if he wants to be a part of what they're building at USC under Lincoln Riley, he'd be more than welcome. So we will see in the last week if they kind of re-energize those recruitments and try to flip those guys. I think Dixon-Wyatt would probably be the more likely one.
Okay. Now, here's a name that I've seen on USC message boards. What about quarterback Ryder Lyons? I know he's committed to BYU, but his brother plays on the team. Is there any effort there to make a late push to flip him?
I don't think at this time, but let's revisit this in a year after he's done with his mission in Orlando, Florida. And so he's going to Orlando for a year, and then I don't want to say his recruitment resets, but it certainly opens back up the possibilities of other schools getting in. Now, what I've been told is that USC is not really a threat right now, but they were all in on Peyton Houston in 2027. They missed out on him. And I was told that they reset their whole entire quarterback recruiting board. And Ryder Lyons is essentially a 2027 quarterback. So can Walker Lyons, his brother, talk up the program? Can Lincoln Riley get in his ear? The way Ryder plays is very favorable to what Lincoln wants, like in a Caleb Williams type. But Dan Lanning has been very active there. His best relationship in recruiting was with Will Stein. And one of the reasons I was told he ended up not picking Oregon was because he was convinced that Will Stein wouldn't be there. He was such a good coach that he'd be a head coach somewhere else. And so he didn't want to lock in with Oregon and then lose Stein and then have to worry about transferring to play with Will Stein. So we will see where Will Stein is in a year. We will see what the USC quarterback situation looks like in 2027. I would certainly not count the Trojans out, but Miami and some other schools are going to be involved as well.
Okay, so we'll put this recruitment on the shelf for about a year, and then we'll revisit it. Now, we talked about USC closing with the number 1 class in America. It looks like it's going to happen. I don't see a real threat from anybody because I don't think USC is going to lose many guys, if any, down the stretch. So what do you think is the strongest position group in this 2026 class?
Yeah, it gets interesting with Georgia if they could maybe flip LaDainian Guyton and shock the world there. And Blake Stewart probably joins the class. But at USC, it's wide receiver and / pass catcher because Mark Bowman has to be, included in that group. He's the highest rated recruit in the class, a 5-star tight end. I saw him again Friday night. And when Mater Dei throws the ball to him, he is open all the time and he catches every single pass and he is just great. So he had said throughout this recruiting cycle that USC coaches were telling him that they were going to be in a lot more 12 personnel, that they were going to throw the ball a lot more. He had seen that this season, and it really only reinforced his commitment to those guys because he is just an outstanding player. But you go down the list, Boobie Feaster, it looked like Texas A&M was going to make a late run. He ends up not taking that visit this past weekend. It looks like he's locked in. Trent Mosley doesn't get enough recognition. He's been injured a little bit. He has a kind of an injury bug. But in terms of talent and playmaking ability, he's awesome. Tron Baker's been back from injury this year, has been outstanding. Luke Weaver, a guy that's not mentioned a lot because he doesn't play in the Trinity League out here, but is an outstanding pass catcher. Roderick Tizino, a guy from Louisiana that they really liked. So they've gone up and down the West Coast. They've stayed local for a lot of these top guys, and then they've dipped into Texas and Louisiana. Outstanding group that USC is bringing in to sort of replace the Mekhi Lemons and Jacoby Lanes of the world.
So this weekend, as USC takes on UCLA in a matchup where, we look at them very favorably and they could do some damage here. So they're going to bring some recruits on campus. What is the priority? What's the focus this weekend?
Yeah, I think the focus this weekend has been the focus, the early focus for 2027 all along, and it's defensive backs. And they're very lucky because they need defensive backs in 2027, and the California is absolutely loaded at the position. Now, Gavin Williams will be a target at safety. Mm-hmm. We will see if they'll try to flip Khalil Terry from Notre Dame down the road. And then there's a bunch of cornerbacks that they're going after. Duve Williams, they told that they're not going to take any 2027s until he commits and is sort of the linchpin of the class. So I think that's going to be an important one to watch. And then Danny Lang from Mater Dei, who moved Oregon up to number 2 on his list this week, but USC still remains at number 1. So wherever they go, wherever they look in Southern California, there are defensive backs, and there are defensive backs that want to play at USC. So they should have a really sort of easy time loading up at that position group. But they'll bring in a lot of the commits. They'll bring in a lot of guys. Now, USC UCLA is usually, oftentimes a tighter game, sort of one of those surprising rivalries where UCLA doesn't have the star rankings, but kind of keeps it close. We'll see if that happens this week. I mean, UCLA just looked awful this past weekend. So we will see if they get up for this game, but USC should be primed after being beaten up by Oregon this past weekend to kind of put a number on them and impress a lot of recruits.
Yeah, I feel good about USC this weekend. How about you guys? Talk to us. How you feeling about the game? How you feeling about the number 1 class? And how you feeling about some big flips on signing day? Talk to us, comment section below. Let's talk Oklahoma Sooners because LSU comes to Norman this weekend for the final game of the season, the final SEC matchup of the season for the Sooners. And we're talking recruiting, we're talking flips, we're talking rumors here. We got Sam Spiegelman, national analyst here at Rivals, and we're going to break this all down. But first, guys, do me a big favor, hit subscribe. We love talking Oklahoma recruiting. We're going to do it all off season long, so you're going to want to be a part of it. All right, let's bring in Sam Spiegelman. And Sam, we got some big news to report here. Crazy recruitment, but Jonathan Hatton, running back, Rivals 300 running back, flipped from A&M to Oklahoma yesterday. How did we get back here?
Yeah, a blast from the past, if you will. Jonathan Hatton was committed to the Sooners since his sophomore season of high school, and now a couple of weeks before he graduates, he's going back to Norman. This was a roller coaster of a recruitment, Josh. Troop Taylor and the Aggies came in full throttle after a breakout junior season. He decommitted at the tail end of his junior season and was committed to the Aggies since March. I was told even before he committed back to A&M in March that Oklahoma was making this very hard for him. His relationship with DeMarco Murray is storied, and the culture that Brent Venables and the Sooners have in place there, it just kind of fits Jonathan Hatton. And that's not to take anything away from the Aggies, who are knocking on the door of a perfect season. But as this early signing period came closer, Oklahoma, still without a running back, made it very clear that Jonathan Hatton was still the top priority for the staff, from Brent Venables to DeMarco Murray to Jim Nagy, the general manager. Get him on board on Monday, and he will be back in town on Saturday for the regular season finale. I think it's a full circle recruitment, as our colleague Steve Wilfong has called it. And I think this is the place ultimately he always wanted to be, and they made sure he knew he was a wanted man in Norman.
Man, talking about never giving up. Jonathan Hatton back with the Sooners. All right, so speaking of flips, who else is on Flip Watch? We got 1 week until signing day. Who should Sooner fans keep an eye on?
Yeah, we got our eyes on Markel Ford, a really talented safety out of the Dallas Metroplex, a top target for Oklahoma safeties assistant coach Brandon Hall has loved Markel Ford and has flirted with the Sooners for a good chunk of his recruitment. And much like Jonathan Hatton, the Sooners staff is circling back to Markel Ford, who's been committed to SMU, which, as you know, Josh, is rocking and pushing toward an ACC championship potentially. Yeah. Markel Ford was in Norman over the weekend, and I am very bullish that he winds up as a part of this Oklahoma 2026 class. They also hosted an offensive tackle, Cole Seaton. They did not offer Cole, but I'm told if they do offer, that could be another prospect out of the Dallas Metroplex on Flip Watch for Oklahoma.
All right. Well, Sam, flips also go both ways, and Oklahoma has a really talented recruiting class this cycle, so it's no surprise that rivals are coming for some of these recruits. Who should OU fans pay attention on as we get closer to signing day that maybe Oklahoma needs to play a little defense on?
Yeah, originally my answer was going to be Braden Allen, who is going to be on campus this week. He's from Louisiana. He flipped from Tulane to the Sooners midway through his senior season. But Braden Allen has now shut his recruitment down. I know if you've been on the Sooner Scoop message board, you know that they think I am crazy that a Louisiana wide receiver with an LSU offer is saying no to the Tigers. But he is 100% locked in with Emmett Jones, 100% going to be back on campus this weekend, cannot wait to be back to be a Sooner, and is, I'm assuming, rooting for the Sooners to get a nice win to close out the regular season against those Tigers that made a late run in his recruitment.
All right, now let's get to this Oklahoma-LSU game. Who are some of the headliners that you're expecting on campus this weekend? Inside Scoop listeners, let's talk game time because the NFL season is underway. Rivalry week for college football is here. And who doesn't love to see their favorite team live and in person, especially when you can go with a bunch of your buddies? But tickets, they're never easy to find, and getting deals on those last-minute tickets can be frustrating when all you want to do is be there for the moment your team runs out on the field. Well, thankfully, the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing ticket experiences. It only takes a few simple clicks. The app's easy to use, and the Game Time guarantee means you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included. So what you see, it's what you pay. You can even get into NFL games as low as $100 or college football tickets as low as $25. That's why I use the Game Time app. It's super simple, and it makes the experience of buying great seats a breeze. Also, one of the coolest features I've seen is the Game Time lowest price guarantee. It's where Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference to guarantee you're getting the lowest price if you find cheaper tickets elsewhere. All right, here's what we're going to do. You're going to download the Game Time app, create an account using promo code INSIDESCOOP. That's promo code INSIDESCOOP for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's Inside Scoop for $20 off Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Yeah, we talked about Jonathan Hatton. The Sooners are expecting former Penn State commit Messiah Mickens, the talented four-star running back, to be in Norman this weekend. They are expecting offensive line target Noah Abib, who just picked up an offer from Bill Biedenbaugh. Much like a lot of the Tulane commits, schools are coming full throttle. They know that John Sumrall is a hot name in Gainesville, in Oxford, in Auburn, and he has a talented class committed to him uptown and for the Green Wave. He will be on campus at Oklahoma, and things are definitely trending for a flip there. They will also have a 2026 offensive tackle, Jonas Moya from Indiana, on campus. Bill Biedenbaugh, as I said, looking to add a few more bodies in the trenches, bulk up this offensive line for the future. Jonas is one of their top targets they're hoping to close with on this very exciting weekend.
All right. We'll be covering this weekend front to back and talking more Oklahoma recruiting as the days lead on throughout the weekend and into next week, into signing day. So make sure you guys are subscribed.